Drew and Allie, both age 73, are living a fantastic retirement. Their $1.5 million portfolio supports their needs beautifully, but now that they're age 73, the IRS has come calling and it's time to take required minimum distributions. Stay tuned to see the multiple step process we would advise Drew and Allie follow to make sure that they get this right. Welcome to Rise in Retirement,
where it's our goal to help you simplify and optimize your retirement plan.
I'm Jet.
And I'm Taco.
We're financial advisors at W.A. Smith Financial Group, a firm trusted by thousands of clients, and we work with people all over the U.S. with a mission to help you focus more on your life, worry less about your money. We've got a topic today with a case example that probably will affect most every viewer on this channel at some point in their life.
Yeah. Hypothetical case, Drew and Allie, living the dream in retirement. They've grown their $1.5 million to really about 6 to 7% each year in retirement. They've been doing really well. They just turned age 73, which for anybody who doesn't know, that's a big milestone
Trigger
age that the IRS says you have to start taking money from your IRAs. There's a couple of other ages that they require that as well.
Or 401ks if you're retired but still have one, etc.
So they've reached this milestone where they're forced to take these distributions, but there's a kicker. They don't need income. And so this is all new to them now. This is money they're having to take, and they don't know what to do with it, and they don't know what to do next. They don't need it from an income standpoint or a spending standpoint. So like you said, this is relevant to a lot of people here.
Well, gosh, we see this all the time with our current clients, with new people that are calling us on phone appointments that people are scheduling over at riseinretirement.com. It is a normal thing that we see. Very common for retired folks who have little to no income or paycheck needs from their asset pool to run into that required minimum distribution age, whether it was 70 and a half, or it's 73, or it's 75, or you name it. There's a bunch of different ages now. And they got to take this number out. And it can be a big number depending on how much you have. I mean, you're talking as little as $5,000 a year that you have to pull out, as much as over $100,000 a year that you have to pull out. And when you're in a situation where you don't need that from a paycheck standpoint, the feeling that people get is, why do I have to take this out? Yeah. Do I have to take this out? Is there any way to avoid it? I don't need this income. Is there something better we can do?
Yeah.
So today we want to talk about a case of someone who doesn't need it and what we feel like is the best way to approach it and think about it and strategize on this.
Yeah. Big, again, relevant topic. So if you want to learn more about your personal situation as far as required minimum distributions go, Jet, you mentioned people scheduling on riseinretirement.com. After today's video, head over to riseinretirement.com. You can schedule a free complimentary consultation with an advisor, 30-minute call to understand your situation here. There's also, we'll talk about this in a few minutes, but lots of other valuable resources over there as well. So Drew and Allie, they've got, again, 1.5 million, Jet. 1,250,000 of that is in traditional IRAs. That's the main part we're talking that they're having to take a distribution on. They've got $50,000 just in bank assets, and they've got $200,000 in Roth IRAs. Roth IRAs do not fall into the category of the required minimum distribution at this time. So their fair market value. So how is it even determined?
Yeah, that's one of the main questions people start with is, how do you calculate it?
Yeah, so the IRS sends out, your Form 5498s, these fun tax documents that we see, ultimately showing you what your year-end fair market value is on your IRAs. There's then a percentage that you have to take every year based on that year-end value. So for their situation, the combined RMD for them is about $44,905. So let's round up to $45,000 that they have to take. Their goal on this is determine, hey, what's the best way to, number one, satisfy the required minimum distribution, when we don't need the money? What do we do? Risk tolerance, they're moderately aggressive. They have stomach for that, for risk, due to the fact that they don't have to take any withdrawals to fulfill their income needs. They can be a bit more aggressive with this.
Yep.
So, they've got $7,000 coming, or they need $7,000 per month.
They got more than that coming in.
They've got more than that. They have Social Security of $5,500 between the two of them. They have a pension of about $2,200. They have no debt. I mean, they're in a spot where
green light from a retirement standpoint.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's a double-edged sword. We have a problem because we've got assets saved that we don't need, but the IRS is making us take it.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
The best way I feel like I've said this a million times. What do I do, Jarrett? Well, you got three options. 45,000 is what Taco said you got to take out in this case example. You establish you don't need to spend it. But your three options are, number one, you can spend it, right? You can save it, or you can leverage it. We're going to talk a lot about the idea of leveraging it today, but I want to start by spend it and save it. So the conversation that I have with clients a lot of times is when they don't need it and they go, what do I do? And I say, well, you can spend it. It usually goes along with the fact of, hey, Bob and Mary, or in this case, Drew and Allie, you can spend it. I know you have enough income coming in, but I'm challenging you now. If there are things that you aren't doing because you don't think that you can, I'm telling you that this is a way or a path for you to spend a little bit more if you can find it in yourself to actually increase how much you spend monthly.
Yeah.
You want to fully enjoy your retirement? Spend a little bit more because you're in such great shape financially that you can afford to do it. Save it could mean, hey, 45,000 is the gross amount that they have to pull out, because you have to remember this is taxable. This is why the IRS makes you take it. It's a taxable distribution that shows up on a 1099 at the end of the year. And the gross amount's 45,000. That's ordinary income on your tax return that's going to show up. So this does affect your tax situation on a federal and potentially a state income tax level, depending on where you live. So you can save it, and the net amount after the taxes that you'll have to pay could go into that emergency fund if you know you've got big expenses coming down the road, or maybe you want to earmark this money for your vacation fund. And I've seen some people do some creative things, and they always know what they're going to do with this money.
Yep.
So they save it and spend it later. Or what it usually boils down to for most folks is, well, I don't need to spend it right now. I'm good.
Yeah. I've already built everything into my budget.
Yeah. I don't need to save it because I've got this sitting over here and I'm not spending all this. And with Drew and Allie's case, the income that they have coming in is more than what they need by $700 a month.
Yep.
So they're already monthly increasing their savings. So I don't need to save it. Tell me more about leverage it. Yep. So what are we talking about with leverage it? Because there's a bunch of different things that we can mention here.
There are, and I'm going to start with a big one. And if you're not doing this, you fall into this category. Drew and Allie, for example, they have built into their budget that they give to charity. So they've already built that into, hey, we spend money on charity. Well, one of the biggest things you can do with leveraging these required minimum distributions is what they call a QCD, a qualified charitable distribution. So in Drew and Allie's situation, rather than using money that they've already paid taxes on that are sitting in their bank account that's part of their monthly income, you can satisfy the IRS by taking money from an IRA, and you can technically do this after age 70 and a half.
Mm-hmm.
You can take that money directly from the IRA to the charity of your choice, if it qualifies 501c3.
Must be a nonprofit.
And not only do you satisfy the IRS, it comes out of your IRA tax-free.
Mm-hmm.
So you've just taken money from your pre-tax IRA, you've shifted it to a charity that you're already giving to anyways, but you got it out of the IRA without paying any taxes on it. You satisfied the IRS. So there's option number one when it comes to leveraging. If you are charitably giving, do a QCD with these dollars.
Let's imagine for a second Drew and Allie are extremely philanthropic.
Yeah.
And they want to give all 45. I have a client that does this with their entire RMD every year. They don't need it. They have no need. And they donate 100% of it to charity. In Drew and Allie's case, if they said, hey, that $45,000 we have to take out, we want to give it all to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We want to give it all to these 5 charities. They could send it all to those 5 charities and they wouldn't pay a single dime of tax on it. It wouldn't show up as ordinary income for them.
And so let's talk about that. So I've seen people make the mistake where they take the $45,000 as a withdrawal, which now they pay taxes on it. Let's just say it nets them 35, and now they're giving $35,000 to a charity.
Yeah.
You just left $10,000 on the table, and the 45 hit your 10 or your 1040, your tax return.
Even a smaller example that can make a big difference, and this is the one I run into a lot. Those of you, you're donating every time you go to church on Sunday, and your church is a nonprofit organization, let's say. Instead of getting out your wallet or writing a check and putting it in the collection plate that goes around, why don't you send the church a QCD, save yourself some income tax? They get their money all up front, or you could do it semi-annually, or you could do it quarterly or whatever. And then you don't have to put in the collection plate. Yep. And you save money on taxes. The church gets what they were hoping to get. Everyone's happy. There's little instances of this that can occur too. I mean, I saved a client, $1,000 a year in income tax just by changing the way that she donates to the church every Sunday by doing it through a QCD. So that's one. Huge. That's one example of leverage it. Talk about, what about just reinvesting it? Yeah. Like, people don't understand that once it comes out and you pay the taxes, you can still reinvest it.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of the save it. You can obviously reinvest into your investment allocation, or, I'm going to go, you can pay the taxes on it, and you can save it by trying to leave a higher legacy. It kind of falls into the save it, leverage it. If legacy planning is one of your goals and you want to maximize how much money you're leaving behind, then there's ways to, hey, let's pay the taxes on this money. Let's take the net proceeds and go do some different things. Specifically, maybe it's for grandchildren, maybe it's for, your kids, whatever it may be. You can even gift it.
I was going to bring that up.
That's another big one is, hey, rather than trying to leave the big legacy when you die, if it's inevitable that there's money going to, be left over, and you want to see your kids or your grandchildren enjoy it and see what they can actually do with it while you're alive, then there's some gifting strategies that we can be looking at. So, there's a lot of options out there, but there's a lot of tax planning opportunities with it when there's not a need. And this doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of scenario either. Drew and Allie could, if they give $10,000 a year to charity, then they could take 10,000 of that 45, go straight to charity. 35, they could pay the taxes on it, either spend more of it, leverage some of it, save some of it for, whoever.
Combination of these things.
You can do a combination of these things as well.
Yeah. Before we get to the final takeaways, we mentioned riseandretirement.com earlier. Well, I want you to go to riseandretirement.com. If you want to talk about your specific scenario with your dollars, your retirement picture, schedule a free, complimentary, no obligation 30-minute phone call. We're seeing more and more people that watch this channel every week hitting that riseandretirement.com site, submitting their requests, hopping on the phone with a financial advisor to get some questions answered, to see if there's an alternative approach that we might help them consider. So that's step number one, is head over there. If you're not ready for that, there's free guides. There's a lot of educational information that you can get your hands on. And most importantly, no-brainer thing to do if you haven't already done it. And I know a lot of you have. Sign up for Ascend 360 Insider. You can do that on riseandretirement.com as well. Ascend 360 Insider is a weekly video email that comes directly from our CEO. Every week is a new topic. It's all based on education. It's designed to help you enhance your learning and your ability in this field that we talk about every single week.
And it's free.
Yeah. No brainer, riseandretirement.com. Make sure you visit that when this video is over. So final takeaway, green light for Drew and Allie. If I were going to critique them at all, it would be, we need to develop a specific plan for what we're going to do with this RMD every year, but we need to do it annually, and it needs to be discussed annually. A good financial advisor, my key takeaway here is, a good financial advisor is going to proactively help you and bring this conversation to light each and every year. You shouldn't be on an island with us.
Yeah. Key takeaway for me is you don't have to wait until you're 73 to address this. This is something that you can be proactive with. Drew and Allie, if there's one thing they could have potentially done, is address this sooner. You don't want to be the individual who kicks the tax can down the road and gets to a point where the required minimum distribution comes in, and now you're paying more taxes at 73 than you were at 65, potentially. So there are some Roth conversion strategies. There's things that we could be doing from a, more proactive approach early on than just waiting until the RMD age.
Yep. Well said. We are out of time. That's it for today's episode on Rise in Retirement. Make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Drop us a comment below. Tell us what you think. Head over to riseinretirement.com. Turn your bell notification on. All that stuff. Make sure you tune in every Sunday here. We will see you next week on Rise in Retirement.